I know you've been sitting a long time. We wanted to give you a chance. I'll tell you a funny story on that shoe deal. That kid delivered the resume and the shoe, and so we thought, well, that's a cool idea. So we had our broker, one of our young brokers, we had an office building that we owned we needed to lease, and so he started delivering flyers in a shoe with the same concept, and he got arrested for being a potential terrorist at some large corporation. True story. It's pretty funny. We're gonna. If you got some questions you want to answer, I want to say something. I said something, and when Peter, you've heard a lot of different backgrounds. That's what we wanted to do, and that's kind of why we picked the people we did. You know, from different backgrounds and experiences and all that, so you can see that there's no like one path. We want you to, if you take away something in particular, maybe that's it. That there's not a path, to this kind of whole industry. There's a lot of different ways in, but there's probably some very common ways that you have to handle yourself. But I made a comment to Peter when this friend of mine called, John Harden, and I said, well, John said, well, he's not like you. And the reality was, Peter was very much like me. He was very much like me at a certain point in life. I mean, almost identical. So it's one of the reasons we hit it off so well. And the other thing is, Evan said that she did, encouraged us to hire. Well, that's really not the true story. What really is, Evan, and you can Google it, is a racial algebra recipient. You can look at that scholarship, which are kids that overcome like crazy stuff. And Evan, I heard her story, and I went up to her and said, "You're hired." Coach Slocum, is that a deal for Coach Slocum? And Coach Slocum actually said that. Coach said, hey, anybody, I don't remember what you said, RC. You said something like, hey, somebody here ought to hire her. I think that's what you said, Coach. And so anyway, I went up and said, "You're hired. You're going to go work for our company, period." And she did, and she persevered through, and then she went back to grad school. A couple of people that aren't here today, too, that couldn't be here is Dr. Haney and Dr. Etter. So, I would encourage you, you're learning a lot of stuff, but the people leading your programs are wonderful resources for you when you get out of here. I work for Dr. Haney and Dr. Etter here, and as a graduate assistant, they were influential in my decision to get in the real estate business. And those guys, if I talked to both of them, neither one of them could be here. And man, I love those guys. Last thing I want to say is my position coach at Texas A&M. I showed you a picture, and his son Keen's here. Keen, raise your hand. He's the city manager at Bryan. Love that guy. His family means so much to us, and his dad meant everything to me. All right, questions. Got any questions for this panel? Yes, sir.
If you've got a question, please come to the microphone because we want to record it. When you come, announce who you are so that the panel know who you are. And let me just reinforce for my students, you are being watched. It will affect your grade, and they better be good questions, but don't feel under any pressure.
Harder the question, the better. Come on. Probably want to stand up anyway. And you're welcome to stand up. If you're tired of sitting, please feel free to stand up if you want to stand up. Is this a plug?
Yeah.
All right, I have a question. My name is Hunter Grimes. I'm fortunate enough to work for Caldwell Companies. But my question is, so in the world of brokerage, life is really governed by the mantra of go out and get it. So my question to y'all is, what would be y'all's recommendations for someone who is still focusing full-time on their education for an opportunity to go out and get some practical real-world experience, both to make them more attractive as a new hire and to set themselves up for success in the long term in real estate?
Oh, well, that's somebody over here. I'm not talking. Peter, answer.
I would say probably just, focus on summer interns and finding relative work experience. As you start to hone where you think you want to, get to, work on finding summer internships with really relevant experience.
And Hunter, I called you Andrew, by the way. I just realized that. That guy's an ace. Winner.
Howdy. Following up on that advice, are there companies that y'all value more as internships? I know you talked about big business. Is there anything that we should specifically be looking for if we wanted to one day work for you?
I can comment on that. I think anywhere that you feel like you can really get good experience, and it doesn't have to be exactly in the lane that you end up in, but just anywhere you can learn that has the tools available to learn something new. I think Big Co was a great place to start. I don't know that anyone else here was a Big Co person, but it really was a cool thing to do. I loved it. It wasn't for me for the long term, and that's okay too. There's plenty of opportunity to stay with those companies long term, and they'll cultivate a really great career for you. But I think the experience there is invaluable. If you go to a small company, the training and the resources sometimes aren't always there, or they're harder to find. You have to find time with the leaders and really hope that someone else is willing to pour into you, because there's just not as many resources available usually.
I would just encourage you too to be patient, and where you start is not where you're going to finish.
Yeah,
You've heard our
definitely.
careers. I started in bank marketing. So where you start is not really where you're going to end up. So just be patient.
Yeah, I agree with Susan on that too. And that's one thing I see a little bit right now that is almost an impatience to like move forward at a faster pace than probably is realistic. So if you can kind of like be always prepared for the next move, but be a sponge. I think several of them said that. Be a sponge for everything you can learn, because there's just so much to learn and we're all still learning. I tell you, I'm learning every day. There's still just keeps going. So getting the right culture.
I think E made a really good comment about doing little things really well. Whatever job you're given, whatever detail you're asked to do it amazing, and the opportunities will open up for you.
I want to comment on that. So all of us want great jobs, but in the job market, I think the great jobs are rare and valuable, right? So you need to offer something rare and valuable. So what is that? So maybe it's a combination of skill sets, or maybe it's a combination of your unique experiences that can really add value to the organization. Or maybe you just do one thing, but you do it better than anybody else. So think about your what's your strategy on designing your career? Yeah.
Howdy.
Howdy.
I'm Kim Ho, and I'm from MLPD program, and pretty much like you, I was from another country. And yeah, so I want to ask you, since my previous experience, it has shown that sometimes two departments are going to cross paths, and you receive like two directions from both your seniors, and you know that you cannot satisfy them all. So what is your advice, like having that situation, and you're stuck in the middle?
So I want to understand the question. So the question is, when you get conflicting advice from two different people on two different
Exactly.
senior leaders on your team?
Yes.
Never happens here.
Never
Yeah.
happened. That'd be a first.
I wouldn't know how to approach that.
Yeah, Miranda, actually, you'd be a really good one to
Yeah.
answer that question.
Because like
Figure out which one's right. No, I'm
I faced
kidding.
something like that during the market downtime in 2012. So yeah, I had to do a lot of things inside a firm, and sometimes I received like two different directions from both our seniors.
Yeah.
And
Can I answer that one a little bit and give you a little feedback? So I have a little rule. If two people always agree, one of them's unnecessary. So disagreement, again, is a good thing. I would view it as that. It's a positive thing that people don't always agree. But at some point, you have to determine who's actually leading. And that ultimately, that is the leader's role, is to make a decision. At some point, I'll use this, I love to say it, the airplane's got to land. At some point, we got to put the airplane on the runway, Clint's visual. And so whoever is leading that team, at some point, you hear all that, and a good leader encourages a diverse discussion. A poor leader, in my opinion, doesn't encourage diversity of discussion, and they land the airplane too fast. But at some point, you've got to make a decision. So whoever the leader is in your illustration needs to make a decision, and you have to decide who's leading in that discussion of those two different opinions, who actually is leading, and that's the direction that is probably best.
And just to add a tiny bit to that is get everyone in the room and have that discussion Fred's talking about, and maybe you can, cultivate that meeting.
One more question, please. So I heard Mrs. Caldwell talk about like social media works. Yeah, so can you please advise us how to leverage that tool to get a job
Sure.
after school?
Sure.
Thank you.
I mean, for me, if I were in your shoes and having these tools that you have now, I would really follow on Twitter leading industry leaders. I would follow all of the news outlets, so you are up on trends. I would follow all of the real estate bloggers. There's tons of real estate bloggers out there, and you can really become educated that way. LinkedIn, if there's companies that you would be interested in working in, follow those executives and sort of increase your network that way. And really, social media you don't really have to react, but boy, do you have to read it and absorb it and react to it. So, in other words, quantity versus quality versus quantity. So, the more that you can increase your funnel, and the more that it's like newspapers, and the more that you can read and educate yourself on what's out there, then you can take of that and respond, and you can actually start branding yourself as an expert in some field as well. So the sky is really the limit with social media on that way.
Also, sorry, I help with social media a little bit. All my jobs in social media, so I really strategize with it. To the Twitter point, I beyond looking at what they tweet, look at likes and what they're favoriting, because that's not in their newsfeed, but it's a really strategic way to see how they think and what articles they're liking. And I use that in interviews. Also on LinkedIn, if you have a dream company to work for, but you don't know a person to go to, you might know like an executive level person. I'm on the reporting side of things. At one point, I thought I wanted to work at ESPN, and SBC Network was launching, so I just typed in SBC Network on LinkedIn, found a producer, sent a message, got his number, called him, asked him for a 5-minute meeting to talk about his career, and I still talk to him today. And it was all just looking up on LinkedIn, kind of being like a stalker. But it worked. So you can really use LinkedIn as like a back search tool to find contacts at companies, and Twitter would be off just tweets, look up what they like, because it will help you train how they're thinking.
And you might just ask them for an informational interview. I know Lindsay's done that a lot. Like, I'd just like to get some information, some guidance. Could I have 15 minutes of your time?
Yeah, that's really a good strategy for those of you that don't have a position or you're going to make a position change. Don't go interview for a job. Go interview people about what they do.
I actually just have for 5 minutes, because 15 is usually too long for people.
Yeah.
Really. But you'll get an hour.
You had something else?
Follow up on that, I want to know if you have ever made a decision to not hire that person because you found something inappropriate in their LinkedIn or Twitter, Facebook
100%.
profile.
Yes.
Yes.
100%. And don't think when you're in an interview that whoever you interview with isn't looking at your Facebook while they're talking to you.
Yes. And we
So it's just that simple, right? If you're hiring somebody, wouldn't you immediately go on social media today while you're sitting in the conference room and they're sitting across the table and just go, I wonder, boom. It's crazy. I'll take it another level. But it's the reality. So we care about details, right? So if we're hiring somebody, a lot of times I'll go on Google Earth while I'm sitting there talking to the person. I'll put in their address in Google Earth. I'll go, boom, I'll drop the man down on the street in front of where they live, and I'll look at their home while I'm talking to them. Is that creepy? Well, you know,
What if
if
it's an
somebody
old
lives in a
image, Fred?
home, if somebody lives in a house and we want to hire and we care about details and their yard looks like crud and they've got a broken down car in the front yard, I might care about that. Isn't that weird? Social media today, the power of what's out there at your fingertips. You have to think. Think about what people have that they can look you up on to the point of, seriously, Google Earth dropping an icon down and looking at your house in a matter of seconds. I hear you doing one.
Howdy.
Howdy.
My name is Joshua Sanye. I'm in the MLPD program as well. My question actually relates to when y'all are looking at a potential candidate. A lot of us, we don't have experience, or what experience we do have is little. Some of us are ambitious with that experience and maybe, are trying to be a sole proprietor or something like that. At what point, when you're looking at that candidate, does that ambition or confidence in themselves actually start to poison their chances of becoming, an asset to your company?
Yeah, so I think the question is, at what point is confidence overconfidence and come across that way? Yeah. So I have a rule, pretty simple rule, is that humility is really attractive, and pride and ego are opposite of that. We're not drawn to it, and so I think humility really wins. But there's a confidence in humility, I think, that you want to have. But you have that. I see that in you. Just the way seriously, the way you handle yourself, the way you stand there. You have a confidence about yourself, and it's a nice confidence, and people will read that in you. But when it comes across as ego, y'all can talk to this too. But when somebody comes in and they know as much as you do or more than you do. A lot of times people know more than we do about what we do sometimes, but they don't have any experience. That's a. But I've been that guy though, and tell you when I was, coming out of school, I knew a lot about numbers, and I could run numbers, but I didn't really know people, and I didn't know sales and marketing and these other softer pieces of the business, and that's probably where some of you are going to be similar. That's where I was coming out of grad school. I could run numbers, but I didn't know the people side, and I didn't really understand that softer side, and I think that's one of the things I'd really encourage you to work on. And so at least that was for me a big finding coming out of grad school, is I really had to work on the people skills and the people side of it, and it's a lifetime of doing that. So it's a really good question. I know y'all have.
It's a good answer.
Okay. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
Howdy, my name's Grant Speaks. My front lawn looks really good, but my back lawn.
We have a drone for the backyard.
Yeah, I've been meaning to finish that tree house for my kids for about 3 months now, and it's going to get finished one of these days, just once the weather gets nice and the Aggies aren't playing football anymore and all that good stuff. But you talked earlier about some of the books that you guys really think are important, that you guys have used to actually, found the company on and build your vision. For those folks entering the development side, what kind of books would you recommend that they go ahead and read in our copious amounts of free time?
Peter, we got all kinds of readers up here. Peter, what do you think? Clint?
Good to Great. That's a phenomenal one. You heard Fred talk about the bus earlier. That's a great business book. Good to Great. I'm trying to think what
I will say, even though you're in development, you're also in sales, whether you believe it or not. And so being able to connect with people, I think one of the best books that you can read is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's the best. Or no, is it Zig Ziglar?
No, it's Dale
Dale
Carnegie.
Carnegie.
That's a
So
phenomenal
it's a
book.
great book. I know Fred and I both read that right when we got out of school too, and it really helped. Again, I was in bank marketing and just trying to go in and sell bank products, connecting with people. That's a good one.
Clint, what do you got?
From a personal growth, I think 7 Habits, Stephen Covey's a great book. But if you're real estate junkies like most of us in this room, I really enjoyed the ULI book that they wrote about Gerald Hines, and I really enjoyed Trent McCrowe's biography. And I think if you read about guys who've done this, before, it's, technology's changed, but real estate business is very much still the same.
part of that I would add too is just be an avid reader if you're not. I mean, I know you're going through school and you gotta, but love to read. I think I've got 4 books going right now. Scattered different places. Like one on golf, and I'm reading this faith book right now, and I'm reading a couple others right now, and I read every morning, early in the morning, and I think and to E's point, travel. Go see this world that the good Lord gave us. Go see the United States. I mean, there are so many places. Travel informs your mind. You go to Europe. We're newest thing in the U.S. mixed use. Yes, placemaking. They've been doing it for thousands of years over there. I mean, we're not inventing anything new. You go over to anywhere in Europe, all through those European little small towns. It's mixed use. It's the original mixed use. What we're trying to create is what they've been doing over there. So travel informs the mind, and it's really important. I think in the development business, we get so many ideas just by traveling different places and seeing things. And we've imported things. We got a deal we imported from Versailles, France, that we're building right now. Just weird stuff. Yeah.
I'll let you know when I finish the treehouse.
That's our drone strategy.
Hi, my name is Christopher Rohde. I'm a local property manager here in town. I actually went through the MRE and MLPD programs. And I noticed that we have folks from graduates from both programs in your firm. How does that help with, what are some of the takeaways that y'all had from some of the separate programs? And how does that help with the collaboration and the messy meetings in your firm?
I think both programs give you just a great toolbox of skills to start off into to give you an entry role in the development business. MRE program is a little more focused in finance and the valuation piece, and MLPD is a little more focused on design and the balance between the two. But both of the degrees take classes in both the schools, so that's what it was for me anyway, and I think it's continued, and it's why I've continued to kind of help the program and give back to it, because I just thought, I came out of school with what I felt like was at least some tools that I could go to work with.
To me, I'd leverage both programs. When I was in MLPD, I also took a lot of classes from MRE. So just absorb as you can. I think you are allowed to take classes in both programs, and to see what stimulates you, and what energizes you, and help you find your strengths, your passion, your niche.
Yeah, both programs have great strengths. That's why we do hire from both. They both have great strengths, and maybe one day there'll be like the real estate school at Texas A&M that's like this combination of all of it. But I mean, they're just so well led. You got both leaders here today, and they're just great programs. We like hiring for both of them. They both have their kind of unique strengths, and we need both in a firm like ours. Mm-hmm.
Hello, my name is Crystal Calhoun. I'm a master real estate student. So as you can imagine, finding a great cultural fit is very important as we pursue internships and jobs. Beyond researching online of a company's culture, what are ways that we can really gauge our fit with them as we look forward into our careers?
Evan, why don't you answer that?
I think looking at their community involvement and where they give back, where they spend their time. You can go, I know, on our website and see, all the different things that we do on the side. We go and Sci-Hope, and we go to the local schools, and you find out what's important to those companies. You can go to their social media pages, and you have some companies that'll have happy hours, and there's different cultural fits, and you can pick that up and sense that by their social media page as well.
Also search press lists. Like each company has things they want the public to know, like HBJ, like in Houston, we have Houston Business Journal, and if we want the public to know, we will have press lists on those key journals or newspapers. Yeah.
I'd also recommend, I'll give a little plug here for the summer in the Aggie Real Estate Network Conference. 40th anniversary. Everybody's got to come out for that. But spend time with the people that work in those firms and take advantage of those networking opportunities provided by these programs and by being involved in the Aggie Real Estate Network to really kind of get to know people and understand what they do and how their firms work and what those values are.
And when you do research on the firm with a question in mind, how can I help this organization be better? How can I add value to this company? If you can articulate that in your interview, I think you are in a very good position.
I think too, if you are able to land the interview with the company you're looking at, really ask the interviewer, you know, who are they, what do they do, why do they like doing what they do, and try to pull some of that culture out of the individuals who interview you.
Thank you all for your advice today.
Howdy, my name is McKay Siegel. I'm an MLPD student, as well as a project manager for a construction company here in town. My question was also about culture, and I guess with such a multifaceted business, something that I'm learning about the construction industry is it's a hugely different culture from where I came from. But for you, what is it that you do as a leader that is intentional to make sure that every facet of your business has that same vision, has that same drive? You know, what is it that you have to make sure that you're doing? And then I guess for you guys as well, you know, what is it that you appreciate about the culture of working for Caldwell Company that you like?
Yeah.
That works in this industry.
I'm going to answer. I'm going to have Todd, who's sitting right there beside you, kind of talk about the culture from a construction side, because he runs our construction business. So that might be helpful to you. But how do you get the culture, how do you keep it consistent and not, you know, some people call it missional drift. How do you get drift in an organization? I think one of you know, which I'm not very good at, quite frankly, a lot, is you just got to repeat it. You know, you just have to constantly repeat, like our mission, doing it right now. We try to repeat that on everything we do, on everything that goes out. And, you know, I made that comment early that, you know, our customers read back our mission statement to us all the time, particularly when we don't meet it. And, you know, I love that. I mean, our customers can repeat and state our mission statement over. So I think you just got to repeat it. It's got to be on everything. It's got to be top of mind. And then I think actions have to match. It's one thing to talk about a culture and all that, but, you know, we've hired people in the past, probably sometimes in a haste, and they don't fit. And a common comment in those cases has always been, I thought the culture was one thing, but the reality is when I got in here, I realized y'all have a really thick culture. And what they were saying was, it's not the right culture for me, but I understand you've got a clear culture, and I take that as a real compliment. But I think it's, you know, our whole leadership team, and we all work pretty hard on kind of how we treat people matters, you know, internally. And I always tell people that the lady that cleans our office, Belinda, I care probably more about her than I do some of these, you know, some big CEO coming in or something like that, you know, coming off the elevator. I care as much about Belinda and probably more, how we treat her. So I think, you know, for us, how we treat people kind of reflects a lot of our culture. But Todd, why don't you, from a construction standpoint, might be interesting, if you don't mind.
Howdy. So from a construction standpoint, you know, we've kind of incorporated construction into our vertically integrated company. And the construction industry has a very well-known stigma to it about being a certain way, you know, gruff guys, mean-spirited, we want to yell and scream in the streets and everything. And honestly, in our company, it's not like that at all. It's the complete opposite. And I think it starts with the top. It starts with the number one leader setting the expectations and understanding what our culture is. And then everybody that I look at to hire, I explain that to them very clearly before they come on board. Because it's the cultural fit that is so important. Is if they can't, it goes back to Fred's, the box of four, right? If he's a four, he may do a great job for us for a little bit, but he's not going to align with our culture, and he's going to degrade the overall experience and overall performance of the company. So.
Thank you, Todd. We got one more question over here, and then we'll finish up. head to
My
lunch.
name's Austin Gray in the MLPD program. I got two quick questions. The first one is, who's the best golfer in the company?
Miranda. See the pictures? I don't know. Ronnie and I don't like that very much. So. We do have a grudge match, but since she's with child, she backed out.
Hey, watch it. I could probably still play.
This might be our time to take her right now. Actually, we should push forward with that. Yeah.
Second question is, within the development industry and it being so competitive, you know, if someone is cutting corners or just maybe trying to unfairly get ahead, can you talk about how, either just generally or a specific example of sticking to your values and your faith has paid off in the long run?
Yeah, so, yeah, I think it just comes down to trust that in the end, doing the right thing actually does win. And we've had to make some hard decisions like that. There's been some hard personnel decisions over the years with some, decisions we had to make about the way things were handled. And some of those decisions are really hard from a leadership standpoint, because sometimes it's, you got to discern, was it just a dumb mistake, or is this something that's an issue that's going to repeat, and it's rooted in a character thing that maybe isn't going to change. So you have to, those are never easy kind of decisions, are hard, and we've had that over the years, and I've probably handled some of those okay, and some of them maybe not as okay. Certainly learned in that area. It's challenging, but in the end, as we've talked about, culture has to be paramount, and you have to put it above results, even if it means a high performer. Again, you go to that person out on the high result end, but low on culture, is painful as that is, and financially painful, is you have to make the move. You just can't allow that person to bring down the rest of the team or to change the culture of the organization to satisfy one person because they happen to produce. In the reality too, I've found those high producers like that, they burn out. I've watched their careers over the years because they tend to be people that take and they don't give back. And I've watched them have real high points, and I've watched almost in every case crash. So hanging on to that person is like hanging on to an automobile that's about to crash. So I think it's better just go ahead and help them. Like I said, get in another canoe. We're going to be nice. Hey, there's a bunch of other canoes in this river. We'll help you get in a different one and get on down the river. And because and whoever the leader is, in these different groups, and their leaders, like Clint, the protector of the culture is the leader. It's your job. It's my number one job at our company, is to protect the culture of our company and not allow it to be subverted in any way. That's my number one job. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being here so long. And Professor Booth, Professor Donnell, thank you for all you do. And for your students, thank you for your time today. It's really an honor and a privilege for us to get to do this. We were really excited to do it. We had a couple meetings getting ready for this, and it's really quite an honor for us to get to present today. So thank you very much. And I guess there's a luncheon afterwards for those that are going to have our RSVP for that lunch, I guess is the way to say it. I guess that's right, Jeffrey. Is that right? All right. Thank you, and have a great day.